One of Europe's most important rivers is drying up in real time, and it's about to break an all-time record. The Rhine River in Germany, the busiest inland shipping route on the entire continent, just hit 29 centimeters at its most critical checkpoint, dangerously close, to the lowest level ever recorded, set back in 2018. Cargo ships carrying oil, coal, and grain can barely move now, and the cost to transport goods has already tripled in just 1 month. This isn't happening because of a single storm or a single bad week. It's the direct result of the same brutal heat wave we've been tracking across Europe all summer. Today, we're breaking down exactly why a river running dry can quietly threaten an entire country's economy. No guessing, no dramatizing, just the facts, the science, and the real stakes. Drop a comment right now. Did you know a river's water level could affect an entire country's economy this much? If you want to be the first to know every time something major happens with Earth's weather and geology, subscribe to the channel right now. It is completely free. A thumbs up also helps enormously. Let's go for 5,000 likes on this one so the algorithm actually shows it to the people who need to see it. Thank you. Now, let's get into it. Just how low has the Rhine actually gotten? At the Kaub gauge, a critical measurement checkpoint near Koblenz that the entire European shipping industry uses as its reference point for the Rhine's navigability, water levels have been in a steady, alarming decline throughout July 2026. As of Thursday, July 30th, Germany's Inland Navigation Agency reported the depth at Kaub had fallen to just 29 centimeters, approaching the all-time record low of 25 centimeters set on October 22nd, 2018, a benchmark that still stands as the worst Rhine drought event in modern shipping history. To put that number in perspective, the Rhine's long-term average water level at this exact checkpoint is 208 centimeters. What we're looking at right now is roughly 1/7 of the river's normal depth. Industry analysts have identified a specific threshold that determines when commercial shipping essentially becomes unsustainable. Once the water level drops to around 77 centimeters, a benchmark known in the industry as the equivalent water level, barge transport becomes structurally uneconomic, since vessels can no longer carry a viable cargo load without risking running aground. Around 40 centimeters, shipping companies typically suspend normal operations entirely or shift to emergency-only transport. As of this reporting, the Rhine has been sitting well beneath both of those thresholds for an extended stretch, an unusually early and severe onset for this kind of drought, since these conditions typically don't develop until later in the summer or early autumn. What's actually causing this? To understand why the Rhine is drying up so dramatically, you need to understand where its water actually comes from. The Rhine is fed primarily by snowmelt from the Alps, which flows down and replenishes Lake Constance on the Swiss-German border before continuing north through Germany toward the North Sea. Wouter van der Geest, a senior consultant at Rebel Ports and Logistics who has been tracking this crisis closely, explained that this year's specific problem traces back to an unusually thin winter snowpack in the Alps. With patchy snow coverage over the winter months, there simply wasn't enough accumulated snow to melt gradually throughout spring and summer and sustain the river's water levels the way a normal winter would. Layered on top of that already reduced baseline, this summer's persistent severe European heat wave, the same heat wave we've discussed on this channel in connection with the deadly wildfires in Spain and France, has accelerated evaporation and prevented any meaningful rainfall from replenishing the river's catchment areas. Van der Geest was direct about how precarious the situation has become, noting that at this point everything depends entirely on rainfall and that current forecasts don't look particularly promising. Without significant sustained rain across the Alpine and Upper Rhine regions, he warned the situation could deteriorate further, potentially producing an entirely new record low. Why a shallow river actually costs billions. Here's the part of this story that surprises a lot of people, because a river running low doesn't sound, on its face, like the kind of event that threatens a national economy. But the Rhine isn't just a river, it's one of Europe's most critical pieces of industrial infrastructure, functioning as the primary transport corridor for bulk commodities including grains, minerals, ores, coal, and petroleum products like heating oil and gasoline, moving cargo between the port of Rotterdam and industrial hubs throughout Western Germany, including Duisburg, Cologne, and Karlsruhe. When water levels drop, barges physically cannot carry full loads without risking running aground in shallow sections. Traders told financial news outlets that at the worst points this month, vessels were sailing with as little as 1/5 of their normal cargo capacity, sometimes carrying only around 460 metric tons through the Kaub choke point, compared to their typical full loads. To compensate, shipping companies have been forced to either spread the same total cargo across significantly more vessels or simply accept smaller deliveries, both of which dramatically increase costs. The price to transport a single ton of goods from Rotterdam to Karlsruhe has climbed from around 45 euros at the end of June to as high as 145 to 150 euros by late July. an increase of roughly 220% in a single month. The ripple effect across German industry. Germany's Chemical Industry Association has stated publicly that the sector is better prepared for this kind of disruption than it was during the severe 2018 drought, and that current effects remain manageable for now. That reassurance matters because the 2018 Rhine drought is a documented cautionary tale. During that prolonged low water period, German industrial output shrank by 1.5%, and companies across multiple sectors faced genuine supply bottlenecks and production slowdowns directly tied to their inability to move raw materials and finished goods along the river efficiently. Analysts are also warning about a specific secondary effect this time around. If Rhine shipping continues to deteriorate toward a full closure for critical cargo like fuel distribution, the shortfall would need to be absorbed by thousands of additional road tankers, since trucking becomes the primary fallback option when barge transport becomes impossible. That shift doesn't just create logistics headaches, it could meaningfully push up gasoline and diesel prices, specifically across Western Germany, since road transport costs significantly more per ton than river shipping under normal conditions. Germany's economy, already showing only tentative signs of recovery heading into this summer, now faces this additional headwind at a particularly inconvenient moment. This isn't actually a new problem, just a recurring one. If this story sounds familiar, that's because the Rhine has now experienced serious low water disruptions repeatedly over the past several years, a pattern that shipping companies and climate analysts increasingly describe not as a series of isolated unlucky summers, but as an emerging new normal. Beyond the historic 2018 event, Germany experienced another serious drought-driven shipping crisis in 2022, and lower-level disruptions have recurred in multiple summers since. One shipping industry executive interviewed during a previous Rhine low water event put it plainly: there's no denying climate change, and the industry is having to genuinely adjust to it, including ordering newly built vessels specifically designed with a shallower draft so they can continue operating even when water levels drop to levels that would have shut down shipping entirely just a decade ago. What happens next? As of this week, some rain has reached parts of southern Germany, though industry forecasters described the amount as less than what was needed to meaningfully reverse the decline, and water levels were forecast to continue falling in the days following that rainfall. Getting back to genuinely unrestricted navigation on the Rhine, according to freight industry analysts tracking the Kaub gauge closely, would require weeks of frequent, sustained rain across both the Alpine source regions and the upper Rhine catchment area, not a single storm system passing through. Until that happens, shipping companies are expected to continue operating with reduced loads, elevated surcharges, and the ongoing risk that conditions could still deteriorate toward a new all-time record low before any meaningful recovery begins. Final thought. It's easy to think of drought purely as an agricultural or wildfire problem, something that withers crops or fuels the kind of dramatic fires we've covered elsewhere on this channel. The Rhine's current crisis is a reminder that the same underlying conditions, a thin winter snowpack combined with a prolonged, intense summer heat wave, can just as easily strike at the infrastructure level, quietly squeezing an entire industrial economy through something as unglamorous as a river simply not being deep enough for cargo ships. Nobody evacuates their home because of a low river. There's no dramatic rescue footage, but the ripple effects, tripled shipping costs, potential fuel price increases, and reduced industrial output touch millions of people who may never even hear the word Rhine mentioned in connection with their monthly bills. That's precisely what makes this kind of slow-moving, infrastructure-level disaster so easy to overlook, and exactly why it's worth understanding clearly. We will keep tracking this story and every other major seismic, volcanic, and extreme weather event happening around the world right now. Subscribe so you don't miss the update if the Rhine breaks its 2018 record. And leave that comment below. Did you know a river's water level could affect an entire country's economy this much? 5,000 likes on this video? Let's go. See you in the next one.